That is the most uncomfortable truck seat I've ever sat in, bar none. Today I'm going to show you how I replaced it. If you've watched the channel before, you'll know that this is Bruce, my 1987 Dodge Power Ram 50. Little Mitsubishi import truck from the 1980s. Done a few things to it, but for the most part I bought it as a very, very nice running and driving truck, almost rust-free. However, even from the factory, these seats are complete garbage. I don't know how they designed this terrible seat for this great truck. This seat was never comfortable, not even from the factory. It is way too firm. You cannot adjust the actual angle of the back, so you're sitting straight up like you're on a school bus. The headrests, however, are in a nice spot. I'll give them that. I do like the cutout for the four-wheel drive shifter. However, it's unnecessary as the seat is too far back to affect it. And the cushioning breaks down very, very quickly and just becomes a horrible, horrible living experience. Now, my weapon of choice to fix this problem is not from Japan, because in the 1980s, Japan didn't make you think luxury and comfort and cushiness, I guess, if that's a word. No. In the 1980s, if you wanted cushy, you had to go to GM, Chrysler, or Ford to get something like this. This is a split bench seat out of a 1985 or 86 Oldsmobile or Buick G-body. The G-body is important. As you can see, this factory seat is about 51 inches wide, and that's where the G-body comes into play. The G-body, as it turns out, is just about the same width as this truck, or probably S10, or Ford Ranger, or small Toyota, or anything from the 80s. It's a small truck. They're all about the same cab width and cab length. So it's important to look for a G-body if you're going to do this swap. Finding the seats. I lucked out into a set that is almost factory fresh on Facebook Marketplace. Now, one of the drawbacks to doing this conversion is you lose that jump seat in the middle. However, who's really going to sit in that jump seat in the middle? Nobody. No one's going to sit there. You don't need it. So if you put these seats in, that gives you about 4.5, maybe 5 inches of room that you can probably put a center console in out of like an S10 or a Tacoma or something else that's going to have the height you need to be able to use it as an armrest. And when I say armrest, did I mention this seat comes with one? Yes, it's terrible, but it does have one. Now, being a factory bench seat, it only has 4 attachment points. You've got one front and one rear on each side of this seat. So, putting bucket seats in, you do have to drill a couple holes in your floor, so if you don't feel comfortable doing that, go no further. But if you're like me and drilling a couple holes doesn't bother you, you can get some plush bucket seats. Let's continue. Now, the decision you're going to have to make on each side as far as these brackets go is, do I want to use the rear factory hole or the front factory hole? And that really depends on your height. If you use the front factory hole, you can move the seat a lot farther forward, so if you're a shorter driver, you may want to do that. I am, and that's what I did on the driver's side. However, passenger comfort-wise, I use the back hole because I don't know how tall any passenger might be that could ever ride in this truck. Thinking of you. So, factory hole, passenger side rear, right there. Didn't have to drill that one out at all. And you have your first anchor point that you can reference everything else off of. On the front, on this passenger side, I did weld this bracket poorly, yes, but it is welded. If you don't have a welder, you could easily just take this metal and drill through it and put a bolt here, and you'll be just fine. If you do have a welder and you feel like attempting to weld, like I did, then go ahead and do it and save yourself the trouble of trying to find a bolt and a nut that will thread together in your miscellaneous bolts that I know you all have. Once you got that welded, then what you do is you come up here and you mark where the original hole was, you throw a bolt through that one, and boom, that's 2 out of 4 done. And on the left rear, like I said, this was a bench seat, so you're going to have to drill a hole. It goes right about 3 inches away from the transmission tunnel, straight down, plenty of room on the underside, nothing in the way. You can definitely do this. Just drill the hole. It'll be fine. Put bucket seats in. They're way more comfortable. Trust me, just do it. And here's that bolt from the underside. As you can see, there's a little bit of heat shield that's slightly in the way, but you can still get a shallow socket and a ratchet on this. So no excuse not to drill this hole. And for this 4th bolt, it's going to be the same setup. I can't really get back under there. It's kind of on the inside of the transmission tunnel, and you won't be able to see it, but drill a hole. It'll be fine. On this driver's side, like I said, I'm a shorter person, so I used the front factory hole and drilled one in the back. And as you can see, again, nothing in the way. That's the bolt. It's just fine. Similar on inboard. The only difference on this driver's side, since I moved the seat forward, is there is this ridge right here And that ridge is actually a floor support. And what you have to do basically is you have to take a big damn hammer and just crush it into sort of a bowl shape right in that section. That floor support by the trans tunnel, originally it was curved sort of like my hand here, and you whack it a whole bunch of times with a hammer in it. Now it looks like that. This is the later model setup. They use 3 individual motors, 2 here, 1 at the back, instead of 1 motor and a plastic cased transmission that just disintegrates. Now, what you'd think would be the hard part would be the wiring, but it's really not. I happen to have a spare LED fog light wiring harness. If you don't have one, you really just need power and ground, and make sure you fuse the power wire. Don't run something unfused. You're just gonna melt this thing to the ground. I ran it all the way battery, so you can adjust the seat before you turn the key on if you need to adjust it. Went underneath the carpet here, and I ran it up and through where the jack used to be underneath this seat to right here. Now, once you've hooked up your power and your ground, what you're gonna do is you're gonna try your switches out to make sure it still works. What you're gonna notice is that your switches are working backwards because, well, power and ground could go either way on that one, and I guessed backwards. So take the time, go ahead and reverse that, get it right, and then your switches are gonna work. Then all you have to do is push your seat and adjust it the way you want it. All right, now that I've thoroughly messed up my settings, you get the idea. The power seat works just fine. And that's really all there is to it. A couple of seats out of a GMG body. You're gonna have to drill 2 holes in your floor on each side to fit these seats, but it's totally worth it. This is the most comfortable seat I've ever sat in a small truck. I don't know exactly what it's out of, but it was definitely mid-80s and it was definitely G-body. So take your pick from there, whatever fits your butt the best. Wiring, super stupid simple. Battery, power, and ground. Make sure you have the power to the right one, otherwise your switch is going to work backwards. And there you go. Within, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, you can have some awesome, awesome seats in your crappy Japanese 1980s import truck that, other than the crappy seats, is actually probably the best truck I've ever owned. So, thanks for watching, everybody. We're going to continue to make some improvements on this truck, and I believe all these luxury upgrades we're going to call the Dodge Little Horn package. So stay tuned, and we'll see what we can do next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.